think of one thing that you do when you are procrastinating, when you're not doing the thing you ought to be doing. One thing. Everybody got one? Okay, can I hear a few?
Answering email.
Email?
Cleaning the house.
Clean the house. Why don't you live with me?
Watch Facebook.
Television, Facebook, one more?
Play with the dogs.
Pardon?
Play with the dogs.
You play with the dogs, right. Play with the dogs. You have a duty to perform. This is Jalaluddin Rumi. You have a duty to perform. Do anything else. Do any number of things. Clean the house, go on email, eat.
Sorry to say it, Mark, but eat.
Eat, walk the dogs. Do anything else. Do any number of things. Occupy your time fully. And yet, if you do not do this task, your time here will have been wasted. Very fierce teaching. You have a duty to perform, and yet if you do not do this one task, your time here will have been wasted. What is he talking about? What was Rumi trying to tell us? He was trying to tell us that it is up to us to come awake, to come alive, fully alive in the one life that we can live, to move away from the limitations that keep us small and boxed in, to come into the unique, particular being that we are, each of us. Now, he understood, Rumi, that this was a particularly kind of difficult task. It isn't easy to know what it means to actually live an authentic life, to be fully in yourself all of the time. And so he also then wrote a beautiful invitation to sort of self-compassion. Come, he said, come, whoever you are, wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving, eaters, house cleaners, email doers, whoever you are, ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vow, even if we've fallen off our own wagon 1,000 times, come, come yet again, come. I'm Maria Sirois. I'm a clinical psychologist and inspirational speaker. I work, as Jamie said, in the world of death and dying, but also the world of flourishing. And 1 minute into my first experience of working with a child who had a terminal illness at Dana-Farber in Boston, I figured out that I was going to have to figure out what we knew about how to survive well. You know, how do we rise in the presence of difficult moments? How do we thrive when Haiti crashes and crumbles? How do we keep ourselves intact? And it turns out we do know how to do this. We, meaning the positive psychologists and the mind-body medicine people and the poets and the artists throughout the centuries do know something. And it has to do with this notion of actually living an authentic life. That when we live an authentic life, when we live our life, we actually can thrive. When we try and live someone else's life, have you ever tried that? Have you ever married somebody else's spouse? Worked somebody else's job, right? Worn somebody else's clothes day after day after day after day, and what starts to happen is you start to feel unalive, the opposite of thriving. Sup at your own table. This is Marcus Tullius Tiro, slave, and then eventually assistant to Cicero and freedman. Sup at your own table. Drink from your own wells, speak from your own heart, follow where your own path leads, for anyone who hopes to lead you cannot help but lead you astray. Drink from your own wells. So what does this look like? Like in real life terms today, what does this really look like? It looks like a woman I was teaching a couple of weeks ago who was at the start of a 5-day retreat program, and this was opening night, and I was invited to talk a little bit about how we thrive, and I had introduced this notion of authenticity, and it was the end of the program, and I was saying, okay, now if you were going to do this week, if you were going to do this 1 week, just 1 week, 5% more authentically than before, what would you do? And this woman in her mid-50s, late 60s stood up and said, from Toronto, stood up and said, I would wear the bunny suit. Well, it was Easter time, and she had come to the Berkshires with a full-on furry tail, ears, the whole thing, bunny suit, and had this urge to be the Easter bunny. And it was a dream she had had her entire life. And she was determined that at this moment in her life, she was going to do it. Well, I didn't see her the rest of the week, but Friday morning, just as she was getting ready to leave, I saw her again. I said, did you do it? Did you wear the bunny suit? She said, I did. It was amazing. I put it on, and I thought, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore what anybody else thinks. I am going to be what I wanted to be. I don't care. And I took my basket of chocolates, and every single person I saw that day, I said to them the thing I most wanted to hear when I was a girl. I said to them, here, take as much as you want. Take as much as you want. You see, when we're authentic, we are self-authoring. We author our own way. We offer our own day. We create our own look, our own music, our own sound. We come up with ideas that are ours, that are uniquely ours. We are self-measured and self-offering. We quiet other people's voices, and we become who we can best be. And to be authentic also means that we are congruent. What that means is that how you think and feel and act and what you value in the world they all sort of cohere together, so that if you were to say to the world, I'm a kind person, you would actually be kind, and you would move in kind ways, and you would elevate kindness when you would see it, and you would reflect it back, and you would honor it. And you would be kind and bring kindness alive. And third, it also means that we give ourselves permission to be fully human. This is from Tal Ben-Shahar, Israeli psychologist, former Harvard professor. The notion that we get to have all parts of us exist and all parts of us be honored, because there isn't a person yet, I think, in the world who has figured out how to be perfect. Am I right? At least in Berkshire County? There's one guy. One guy. It was a rumor. It was a rumor, right? 2,000 years ago. Permission to be fully human. When I was a younger mother, had one of those moments with my daughter, frequent moments back then, when I had to give her a consequence for something. I was going to say punish, but I thought punish was too hard a word for a modern day mom, so I said consequence. So notice how already, just standing here, we edit ourselves for the benefit of others. The truth of the matter is I punished the heck out of her, and I sent her slamming upstairs, and she got halfway up the stairs. She was 3.5 years old. She stopped dramatically on the landing, and she screamed down at me, I hate you, and I hate all of your parts. When we are authentic, all the parts get to exist. All of them get to play together. All the voices at the table get to be heard. We don't necessarily move from all of those voices. We choose the ones most wisely, of course, that we live from and that we bring forward. But they all get to exist. The depressed voice, the sad voice, the weary, the embittered, the passionate, the impassionate, the kind, the bold, the dull, the soft, the still, the shy, the introverted voices. They all get to exist. And when that happens, when the bunny gets to play, whatever that might mean for us, the buffalo also gets to play. Brene Brown talks about, from University of Houston, how those of us who live wholehearted lives are those of us who allow all of our parts to come together and be. Well, you know, just be. Just be. That none of us is anything except who we are most fully when we are wholehearted. And the beauty of being wholehearted is that we can then bring that to others. Living authentically actually generates authenticity in others. It's one of the great benefits. It passes itself on. Like generosity begets generosity and kindness begets kindness. Authenticity does the same. If you're standing with someone, in the presence of someone who is living truthfully, you feel that urgency to live that way too, to figure out what your own bunny suit might be, right? And the other benefits that accrue from taking the time to figure out what our one task is and then going there courageously step by step, the other benefits are increased self-esteem and overall psychological well-being, less depression, less anxiety, less ridiculous eating in the middle of the night, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning going for the third bag of Doritos. We actually have more pleasure, a sense of meaning in life, and because of those, we are happier. And beautifully, wonderfully, what we now understand is that those of us who live more and more into the truth of our own particular being actually innovate more. We are more creative. We generate, we make things happen. When we are who we are, we can take a problem like Duchenne muscular dystrophy and say, thank you very much. I understand how this has been done for the last 200 years. We are not going there. We are going here. We are going to talk directly to the scientists, and we're going to talk directly to other parents about what has to happen, and we're going to bring the two worlds together, and we're going to make something happen. Or you can be a doctor like Mark Hyman and say, I know something about obesity, and I'm a medical doctor, but I also know something about the human condition, and I can understand that connection has to live fully in order for health to rise. And so why can't I bring those two together? Why can't I create it together? Or you can be like, I don't even know his name, who makes organs out of printing machine, you know? When we are authentic, we are freed up to create because we aren't damped down. When you damp down a part of yourself, when I damp down parts of myself, the other parts don't get to exist. I think it was Golda Meir who said, if you do not experience the depth of your sadness, you cannot experience the fullness of your joy. And so, I invite you tonight, as you go home, like not right now, but soon, when you go home, to think about what it would be like for the next few hours, maybe just the rest of this day, to step into 5% more authenticity. What might that be like? Would you go to bed early? Would you not? Would you wear, flannel pajamas or not wear nothing at all? Would you stay awake late into the night because you've seen or heard one thing tonight that is so fascinating to you that the thought of staying with that one thing for just a little bit longer helps you feel like you're 6 years old again and the world was bright and magical and anything could happen. The Easter Bunny actually could show up the next morning and chocolate could be given and you could take as much as you wanted from the world. Remember when you were 6? Remember when we were 6 and the world had a kind of magic to it? When I was 6, I spent a lot of time in church. And I loved my church and I loved my faith and I loved it so much. The whole thing, the story, it was the Catholic Church, Son of God, the mystery, the ritual, the rite, the incense, the whole thing, loved it all. And so by the time I was 8 years old, I'd screwed up my courage enough to go to the nuns and say the thing that had been in my heart for a very long time already. You know, 6 to 8 is a very long time when you're a young girl. And I went up to the nuns one day, Wednesday in catechism. I don't know why catechism was always on Wednesday, but it was in the 1960s. And I went up to them and said, I want to go to the priest classes. I don't want to go to the regular classes anymore. I want to know how to be a priest. And she said, well, you know what she said. She said, that is not going to happen. And yet, I have to tell you how very grateful I am to be here tonight. The generosity of our hosts and of this community to have the opportunity to talk about something that's powerful and meaningful and potent for me, because it was at that moment, at the age of 8, when some part of me kicked in and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to figure out a way anyway to teach and to offer and to figure out how this part of me that's alive spiritually gets to live anyway, to say something that is sacred just because it's sacred to me and share that and see what happens, and see what happens. So I urge you to go home tonight. Step out of this room, step into yourself. We have a duty to perform. Come whoever you are. Do anything else, do any number of things. Occupy your time fully. Wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving. And if you do not do this one thing, even if we have broken our vows 1,000 times, it's okay. Your time here, well, this is our time. This is our time. Thank you.